Welcome jabronis, my name is Cass, and this is episode 3 of the Emotion Engine Enduro, the show where we play every PlayStation 2 racing game in alphabetical order and rate them on a scale from 0 to 100. Up next is 4x4 Evo. We of course played the PlayStation 2 version on PlayStation 2 hardware, so that's what we'll be basing our review off of today. So put that thing in 4 low as we crawl through this off-road racer. 4x4 Evo is an off-road circuit racer developed by Terminal Reality. It was originally released on Windows, Mac, and the Sega Dreamcast. About 6 months later, we got the PS2 version. Now, this does really feel like Terminal Reality just threw a PC game on console, for better or for worse. It does have a lack of presentation, and really generic fonts everywhere, which really does make it feel like a 90s or 2000s PC racer at times. The upside is you do get a very customizable experience outside of the career, and the game also does appear to have a variable frame rate when the FPS does become less than optimal. I found myself forgetting I was playing a PlayStation 2 racing game and not a Windows 2000 racing game from time to time. I didn't really find this to be a good thing or a bad thing, but it did make the game feel pretty unique at times on the PlayStation 2. Loading past the start screen reveals 4 different race modes. You get a common quick race and time attack race, a versus mode which is just simply the local multiplayer for up to 2 people, and lastly a career mode. This is where we spent the majority of our time in UL2, and it's a pretty standard affair of selection for racers of this age. Starting in the career mode, you're shown to a mostly black screen with go to garage, go shopping, and go racing. 4x4 Evo provides zero presentation in all this, which will become a theme pretty quickly. Some explanation is provided through panning text that just kind of makes you feel like you're playing Return of the Jedi 4x4 edition. After fumbling around for a minute, you'll realize you need to buy a vehicle first. Go shopping, you'll see buy vehicle and buy parts. We'll come back to buy parts later. Once inside buy vehicle, you're greeted with a pretty surprising number of manufacturers from the US and Japan. Chevy, Ford, Toyota, Nissan, Lexus, even more. There's a plethora of trucks from 2000 and 2001, which were all pretty much brand new when this game was released. This does also include some race prep trucks like Baja and Dakar, but there's no classic trucks. There's nothing from the 80s, 90s, or before. Now, if you are a car nerd like me, this will get all the neurons in your brain just firing off, because a lot of these vehicles, especially certain trim levels, have never been in any other game. Now, what really gets interesting about the vehicle list is just the different trim levels, engine options, and body styles even within the same model. The Chevy Blazer, for example, has 2-door versions, 4-door versions, 2-wheel drive, and 4-wheel drive. The Tacoma has an inline 4 and a V6 option, and hell, the F-150 even has multiple cab options. The only other racer that even has this kind of depth that I know of are the older Gran Turismo games. After purchasing your first truck, you can get to racing or you can check out the buy parts selection. This is a massive list of parts for every truck, from ECUs to headers to carrier bearings, lift options, tire options. Even some of them tires are licensed from BF Goodwrench. You even have fiberglass body panels and some minor visual upgrades that do make your truck look pretty badass. The downside that these upgrades sometimes have prerequisites that force you to buy parts in a certain order. If you try to install one and it has prerequisites, it'll just tell you to read the details of the part. It doesn't even actually tell you what parts you need or highlight in any way, which again feels very old PC way of doing this. The upgrades also get very expensive very fast. You'll find yourself not being able to afford most of them for a very long time. And this does lead us into the progression of the game and the career mode itself. Now, after you've bought your truck, then we go to Go Race, and inside Go Race we'll see series and special events. Most of the career is going to take place inside the series, but the special events do provide some unique kind of homologation style races that are just going to be a single event to help you get your money up. Once inside the series selection, you'll see a whole bunch of them available consisting of 3 to 17 races. Yes, up to 17 races. That is every track in the game in one series, and there are multiple like that. The only thing keeping you from doing these are the truck prerequisites. If you select a grayed out one, it will tell you what conditions need to be met with your vehicle before you can do it. Now what's odd is they also don't keep track of, if you win, what kind of points you get, because there are no points based on where you finish. It's just how much money have you earned from this series, and if you've completed it at all. The whole progression of the game ends up getting boiled down to money. Do you have the money to buy the truck you need and upgrade it? Then do the event. It'll checkmark it once you're finished. To sound like a broken record, this does kind of feel like a very PC racer way of doing it in this era. But this also feels kind of like modern racing games, like Forza Horizon, the Crew Motorfest. They must have played this game back in the day, saw that you don't actually need to be good, and thought, hey, that's a great idea. Now, once you select your event, you're met with 3 opponents on track, and wait, what, they're going already? There's a tiny black bar at the bottom of the screen that starts counting down the second you load in. I was caught off guard about this a few times, and we're scratching every single record I can find. PC games that's ported to the PS2, yay! Now once you finally set off, you are introduced to all the environments. Deserts, military bases, highways, construction sites, motocross tracks. This game honestly has a fantastic variety through the 17 tracks it has. Each one of them also has different weather options and different times of day. They're kind of semi-open environments that can have some pretty risky shortcuts in them. Now finding the shortcuts ends up not being that much of an ask because the AI takes them quite often, so if you just either follow the AI or watch them on the minimap, you'll actually see where they go. Now in each of these environments, they did also hide a treasure chest. However, these are really not worth it. You can see this one here that I find on the very first race you do. It gave me $182. That buys you literally nothing. You're actually better off just trying to finish a place higher in the race. That'll earn you substantially more money. Now, the environments I think are one of the hugest positives to this game because of all the variety, and I think they look pretty cool, but it also kind of feels like a half step away from actually being open world, and I kind of wish they took that step. Now, a little sidebar about the environments here. If you actually go out of bounds, it loops you back on the opposite side. So we can see here I'm following this train, and then look at the arrow on the top. See how it flips because now I'm on the other side of the map where I'm still following the train. That's actually how they treat trains, and it's pretty cool, but it also is feels really weird when it happens. Now when racing through these environments, you will notice a fairly arcadey handling model that is a little bit floaty. There's not a ton of depth to it, but the trucks are decently fun to drive, which I do find important, and it keeps you engaged through the whole race. Piggybacking off the physics, the drivetrains of the truck is something it seems like they focused on, but kind of made inconsistent. So I did a test with the Chevy Blazer. I drove a couple 2-wheel drive ones and a couple 4-wheel drive ones, and they all drove exactly the same. But then I drove a 120 horsepower Toyota RAV4 that was front wheel drive, the only front wheel drive vehicle in the game. Then I drove a rear wheel drive Ford F-250. Both of them had absolutely no traction, to the point where they were borderline undrivable. If I had really precise throttle control, they were kind of okay, but not really. So I would recommend, honestly, just spending a couple grand more in each truck and buying the 4-wheel drive one every time. And then lastly, the AI. I have very conflicted feelings about these AI. On one hand, I noticed they don't really have any rubber banding, and they're fairly competent. But on the other hand, they're really fast. You can tell they're not cheaty fast, but they're the kind of, they bought the whole truck, they're gonna use the whole truck fast. So if you run a good race and maybe run one corner wide, you can actually drop from first to last that quickly. They are pretty unforgiving, but again, they are fair, so if you do run a good clean race and you get good at the game, you'll beat them and it will feel pretty satisfying. My time with 4x4 Evo was a pretty interesting one. It was a time that has a basically non-existent progression, the menus are poor, and it has no presentation. But that's kind of offset by really cool environments, a unique vehicle list, and frankly, I just had fun. Fun's not something I can really quantify or explain to you guys, but I did really enjoy my time in 4x4 Evo. And that's why I'm going to give it a 62 out of 100. This is honestly a fairly mid-average game, but I had a good time playing it. So I wouldn't necessarily seek this one out, but if you do come across a copy of it, go ahead and give it a try. Thank you all so much for sticking with me to the end of this review of 4x4 Evo. I had a wonderful time in this one. If you don't already, go ahead and hit subscribe right down below. It really does help out. And then you also won't miss any of the other episodes. We do also live stream these right here on YouTube, as well over on twitch.tv/COisNOTpog. Join me next time on episode 4 for Alfa Romeo Racing Italiano.